Welcome to the second part of the Dai Shogi video series. In this part, I will cover the movement of the pieces. Quick note, I will be going over all of the pieces, but the majority of the pieces in Dai Shogi also appear in Chu Shogi, so if you already know how to play Chu Shogi, I would recommend you skip to the time shown on the screen, so you only have to learn the new pieces. With that out of the way, in Dai Shogi, pieces move in one of four basic methods: sliding, stepping, jumping, and igwai. When a piece slides, it moves any number of squares in a set direction until it reaches an obstacle, such as another piece or the edge of the board. This will be represented by a red arrow in the movement diagrams. If a piece steps, it moves one square in a specified direction. This will be represented by a blue circle in the movement diagrams. If a piece jumps, it moves directly to a square, bypassing any other pieces in the way. This will be marked with a yellow star in the movement diagrams. Finally, if a piece performs igwai, it captures another piece without actually moving from its square. There are only 3 pieces in the game that can do this, and 2 of those pieces can only be obtained by promoting other pieces. Now then, let's get to explaining the pieces one by one. We'll go from least to most important, starting with the pieces that appear in both Chu and Dai Shogi. The pawn. The pawn may only step one square orthogonally forward. Unlike the pawn in Western chess, but like the pawn in standard shogi, the pawn in Dai Shogi captures in the same way that it moves. If the pawn reaches the far end of the board without promoting, it will be trapped. The go-between. The go-between may step one square orthogonally forward or backward. The lance. The lance may slide any number of squares orthogonally forward. If the lance reaches the far end of the board without promoting, it will be trapped. The reverse chariot. The reverse chariot may slide any number of squares orthogonally forward or backward. The side mover. The side mover may slide any number of squares sideways, or it may step one square orthogonally forward or backward. The vertical mover. The vertical mover may slide any number of squares orthogonally forward or backward, or it may step one square sideways. The copper general. The copper general may step one square forward, orthogonally or diagonally, or one square orthogonally backwards. The silver general. The silver general may step one square diagonally or one square orthogonally forward. The gold general. The gold general may step one square orthogonally or one square diagonally forward. The ferocious leopard. The ferocious leopard may step one square in any direction except sideways. The blind tiger. The blind tiger may step one square in any direction except orthogonally forward. The drunk elephant. The drunk elephant may step one square in any direction except orthogonally backward. The phoenix. The phoenix may step one square orthogonally or jump 2 squares diagonally. The kirin. The kirin may step one square diagonally or jump 2 squares orthogonally. Because of this unusual movement, an unpromoted kirin may only reach half the squares on the board. The bishop. Like the Western piece it is named after, the bishop may slide any number of squares diagonally. Because it cannot move orthogonally, it can only reach half the squares on the board. The rook. Like the Western piece it is named after, the rook may slide any number of squares orthogonally. The dragon horse. The dragon horse may slide any number of squares diagonally, or it may step one square orthogonally. The dragon king. The dragon king may slide any number of squares orthogonally, or it may step one square diagonally. The free king. The free king moves just like the Western queen, sliding any number of squares in an orthogonal or diagonal direction. However, you should know that Dai Shogi invented this move around 200 years before Western chess did. The lion. Heads up, the lion is the most complex piece on the Dai Shogi board, so listen carefully. The 8 squares surrounding the lion are termed A squares, and the 16 squares surrounding the A squares are called B squares. The lion is allowed to step 1 square in any direction, up to twice per turn, and it can change direction mid-move. It could step to an A square and stop. It could step to an A square and then to a B square. It could step to an A square and then to another A square. It could jump directly to a B square, jumping over pieces in the way. Or it could even step to an A square and then back to its original square, effectively pausing a turn. These powers also allow for unique captures. The lion can capture 2 pieces in one move, for example. Or it can capture a piece and then return to its original square, effectively capturing without moving. This is that egg-wide capture I was talking about earlier. One last thing. If you already know how to play Dai Shogi, it will serve you well to know the lion trading rules in that game do not apply in Dai Shogi, so you will be free to trade lions to your heart's content if you want. The king. The king moves just like his Western counterpart, stepping 1 square in any direction. He is the most important piece in your army. If your king is captured, game over. You've lost. By the way, in Dai Shogi, the king is allowed to step into check if he wants, although this is obviously a bad idea. Okay, that's all of the pieces that appear in both Dai and Dai Shogi. Now let's move on to the pieces that are exclusive to Dai Shogi. The Stone General. The Stone General may step 1 square diagonally forward. If the Stone General reaches the far end of the board without promoting, it will be trapped. The Iron General. The Iron General may step 1 square forward, orthogonally or diagonally. If the Iron General reaches the far end of the board without promoting, it will be trapped. The Evil Wolf. The Evil Wolf may step 1 square forward, orthogonally or diagonally, or 1 square sideways. The Knight. The Knight jumps for its move. First, it jumps 2 squares forward, then travels 1 more square either left or right before landing. This is like the movement of the Western Knight, except the Dai Shogi Knight can only travel forward, not backwards or sideways. If the Knight reaches the far end of the board without promoting, it will be trapped. The Cat Sword. The Cat Sword may step 1 square diagonally. Because it cannot move orthogonally, it can only reach half the squares on the board. The Angry Boar. The Angry Boar may step 1 square orthogonally. The Flying Dragon. The Flying Dragon may slide diagonally, but only up to 2 squares. Because it cannot move orthogonally, it can only reach half the squares on the board. The Violent Ox. The Violent Ox may slide orthogonally, but only up to 2 squares. And with that, I have covered all of the pieces. So that is it for part 2, everyone. In part 3, we will examine promotions. See you then!